Hi everyone, welcome back. This is the second episode of Painting at Home with Jean Moss. We are back based on popular demand. I, of course, am Jean Moss. And I got a lot of letters recently from just a bunch of people. I'm always painting, I'm always drawing landscapes. And some people have said, well, what about cityscapes? Specifically, I've gotten a lot of writers from the great city of Detroit, the Motor City Miracle. And I feel like that would just be a fantastic subject for our cityscape today. So I will be drawing a cityscape of Detroit. Now, I've never seen the actual city of Detroit, but that's what's wonderful about painting is you can actually just use your imagination, and whatever comes to mind can then be your city of Detroit. So I invite you all to try it if you're working at home, if you're painting along with me, and feel free to write in whatever you want to talk about. The city of Detroit would be fantastic. So once again, a typical and very common surface on which to paint has been the canvas, right, made out of fabric. I have chosen once again my loose leaf paper, very trusty. On the back of this paper though, you might be able to see is writing. I have recycled this paper, and I actually thought the writing would be a great backdrop for a cityscape with all the hustle and bustle in cities. So I thought that would be kind of a nice little background. They are taped together here, which is just with some simple Scotch tape, but you can find it in any household. Now, another thing I've done today, as opposed to yesterday's episode, this paper is now horizontal as opposed to vertical. It's just another way you can shape your paper. It's completely up to you. Whatever you want to do, vertical, horizontal, your art is just for you. So let's go ahead and get started. Once again, my paint choice today, you can use acrylic, you can use oil, you can use watercolor. I will start once again with my trusty ballpoint pen here. Some of them you can actually you might have a ballpoint pen in your house. Really, you can though find it at any convenience store. So let's go ahead and get started with the great city of Detroit, our cityscape. Now imagine there must be some kind of a river or something in Detroit. So we're going to get started with the river. I'm going to start with the river using a little bit of depth. Now, we talked yesterday a little bit about depth. You can play with depth in a lot of ways. You could talk about depth with shading. You can also do it just with shapes and virtual illusion. So let's start with our river. We're going to have it be a little bit smaller back here, and it's just going to kind of, I don't know, wiggle around. You get to decide what size your river is. Mine's going to be just kind of a squiggly shape, and then maybe it goes somewhere off into the Atlantic Ocean. I don't think Detroit is near the Atlantic Ocean, but you can have Detroit be by whatever ocean you want it to be by. So let's go ahead and just make that a little bit closer together at the end. Oh, and there's our river, and down here is our Atlantic Ocean. Great, so let's go ahead and draw a building. We're gonna start with that, and actually what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna draw the top of the cityscape, because what's kind of great about a cityscape is all the buildings sort of run together, right? Don't they? It's kind of like one giant concrete jungle. I think I've heard that somewhere. Concrete jungle. So, okay, we've got a few buildings here. I'm gonna go ahead and just sort of maybe draw maybe a slanted rooftop here. Oh, and here comes another tall building. Let's have two tall buildings in a row. Why not? Whatever you want to do. Your Detroit is your Detroit. All right, so we're gonna just go again this way. I might do like a, I don't know, like a rounded building here. There's another rounded building. And maybe a couple more little tall guys here. Maybe a skinny. Not all buildings are wide. Some of them are a little bit skinnier. And then maybe just another flat one here. And maybe one more slanted one. Oh, maybe another slanted one side by side, followed by a tall one. And there's our cityscape. Now I have a very special treat for everyone today. Yesterday I was using regular Crayola crayons, if you remember. Today I also have Crayola crayons, but being that we're drawing such a colorful topic, such a lively topic as a city, I actually have Crayola crayons today with glitter in them. So we're gonna go ahead and just have a little fun today. See what we think about that. All right, so I'm gonna open up my crayons. Now, first things first, the first thing that comes to my mind, your mind might be a little bit different. I think of sparkle in water. So we are going to just take this little rascal, this little blue crayon. Now, one thing I love about this is yesterday I showed you that the regular acrylic crayons, let me just pull them out, I'm gonna show you the difference here. This is kind of interesting. The crayons yesterday, they have all of the colors in different languages, if you recall, right? So we have green, we have vert, right? Which I believe is French, and vert, just another some sort of language. Now, this one has different languages for glitter. Very, very, very interesting choice. Brilliant, paillette, paillette. So you just pick your favorite word, and that's the word you'll use. We're gonna go ahead and outline our river. Here we go. And I've outlined it. Now, again, I'm gonna play with strokes. We're gonna talk about strokes a little bit. Rivers, especially our river, it's gonna go downstream. So I'm gonna go ahead and use these strokes, right? Just stroking that old river, giving it a nice little massage right on the paper. We talked yesterday, sort of silly topic, about textures, right? So we've talked about textures. I'm just gonna keep stroking. You'll notice I'm stroking and talking to you about textures. One thing about my paper is I have taped it up against my wall, which in and of itself has texture behind it. It is creating more just sort of texture and movement to my painting. Your wall might be different, but don't try to copy my wall, you know? This is your wall, so make it whatever you want to make it. Whatever works for you. All right, I've got some great movement going on in my water. Now here's what's great about my stroking patterns. My stroking patterns have also a wave to them. I like to wave when I stroke. So I'm gonna go ahead though and also just add a couple of other shades. We have a lot of options here in this box. It's much bigger, the glitter box, than the regular box. I think I'm gonna add a little purple. This is called purple, or this is such a great name. I love this name for this color. Orchid Explosion. I love names for colors. I always wondered who named colors. What an interesting job. So I'm gonna add some more of that stroking. We're just gonna keep stroking, add that movement, add that water-like movement, and then we'll get to some of our buildings. Okay, now, I'm gonna go ahead and let that sort of marinate there for a minute. Let that water, let those colors really get to know each other. And let's go ahead and move on to some buildings. Now, here's what's fun. I'm gonna play with color of sunlight. How does sun reflect on the buildings? Rather than make them just an average gray or brown, which you might see in most cities, I feel like my Detroit is more of an orange color to my buildings. So let's go ahead and play around with that. I'm gonna just outline this, and I'm gonna just kind of play with pressure. So you'll notice the harder I press on the crayons, the more shading we're gonna get. Look at that. Now I am playing with a different, this is more or less of a sweeping gesture and more of a vertical up and down gesture. Oh, that's lovely. That's just lovely. Okay, so I'm gonna just kind of keep going in that direction. Now, some of them I might not color all the way in, I might save some colors, but I'm gonna go ahead and just do that sort of rougher gesture to just get those cleaner lines that we're talking about. Now, notice some of my shading, I've decreased the pressure on my color crayon. Up to you. I wanted to create that shading allure, so I am just gonna go ahead. In some places, I might just lift off the canvas a little bit lighter, right? That'll create a little bit more texture. I find that textures are the most important thing in a city. There are different textures everywhere in a city. If you've ever been to a city like Detroit, which I never have, that's what we're drawing. Those of you joining in, I'm drawing the city of Detroit. I've never been to Detroit, so I'm using my imagination to make the city of Detroit come alive. So here we go. I'm just continuing to draw with this orange color because I want to capture an evening sunset, I find. An evening sunset, we're in evening right now. Maybe that's my inspiration. Maybe I'm just feeling a little bit wild and crazy today. But shoot, who knows? Who knows? Okay, we're gonna keep going with that texture. We're almost finished here with the cityscape, and then I'm gonna work on my shading. We've already done some shading here on the river because I'm sure Detroit sits on a river somewhere. And then go ahead and just finish that off. One more little shading here. And there it is, we've got it, perfection. There's our skyline. Everything is coming together beautifully. Now, what I might do with these glitter crayons, this is called Gray Glam. Very, very beautiful color right there. It's not quite gray, there's a little touch of almost periwinkle, but I'm gonna go ahead and shade some of this in. Look at that. Oh, that's just beautiful. Now for this one, I'm creating more of that sweeping gesture, but it's a little more rapid. You'll remember the river was really more of a stroke, right? This is more of a rapid sweep. Rapid sweep. Now again, if you really wanted to, you might be able to use that sweep in some of the buildings, but I wanted the buildings to have a different texture than my water. Okay, we're just gonna keep coloring in right here. Now, what I might do, because I'm feeling a little bit adventurous here, is I might go back and shade a little bit from that vertical stroke just with the gray. See if I can blend it out a little bit. See if I can just blend it out a little bit. Oh, coming together nicely. I imagine this to be maybe one of our motor plants. That's what I'm going to pretend this other one, this building over here is. You can have your buildings be whatever you want them to be. Completely up to you, your imagination. Detroit lives differently in all of us. So just remember that. Whatever you're drawing, it's all about you. Here we go. Now, my paper is breaking a little bit here, so I'm just gonna hold it down. Oh yeah, that's great. And you know what? I might give some of that verticality one more time to that building, just to show differentiation. Now I'm coloring, I'm just trying to blend this all. I'm using, like I say, this color is called, it's so fabulous, it's called Gray Glam. Isn't that just the most fun name? It's called Gray Glam, and I'm using that as sort of my base after I've done orange, because I wanted to capture the sunset, the evening sunset in the city of Detroit. I wonder what people in Detroit are doing on this very evening. Oh, they're probably doing something fancy, probably out to dinner, maybe dancing. Who knows? All right, we're almost done with our first layer of color. And then I'm gonna add in a park. I've read there are parks in Detroit. I think that's probably true, but I'm gonna come back to my ballpoint pen. I'd like to outline this with the ballpoint pen. We have our river, we have our cityscape now of Detroit. So I'm gonna go ahead and add a park. And I imagine this park has a couple of hills. Here's a hill right there. Oh, wonderful. And I imagine people probably in the wintertime just go sledding down this hill. Oh, the people in Detroit love having fun, don't they? All right, I think there's another, probably smaller hill right over here. Let's go ahead and make that happen. Oh, terrific. Very nice. Oh, we're almost out of ink in this pen. Might be time to get a different ballpoint pen. All right, we've got our couple of hills now. I think what I'm gonna do is venture into the color green here. I know. Oh, I found it, and I wanna see what wild color they came up with. Wild wasabi. How about that? Clever. That is too clever. Okay, we're gonna outline now these hills. I love this green. There's a touch of yellow, and you remember we're trying to capture the evening sunset. So, this color has a little bit of yellow in it. I imagine the sun is just shining right on those hillsides. In Detroit, city of Detroit. There's probably a sign they have there that sparkles that says City of Detroit. I'm loving these glittery colors, everyone. They're not so much glittery as they are just sort of a frisky color. You know what I'm gonna do now? There's probably a flatland at this park. There we go. There's a flatland there. Oh, people with blankets and things probably go, and they just like to relax and have fun. Now, as you remember yesterday, I was using did find some paint, and I decided I wasn't going to use it today, but what the heck, just what the heck, I'm going to use some. So I have some nail polish here, and I would like to create a little bit of brush in my grass. Probably there's a little bit of taller grass in this, but if you want grass, you can have grass. I'm just going to add that down here. Now this is a darker red than I was using yesterday, because as we said, it's evening, so the grass gets a little bit darker. I think this will be a really nice adjustment, so check this out. We're going to do, oh, this is a different stroking gesture. You'll notice I'm doing upward. I'm doing upward gestures. This is just a little bit of a cranberry color, which is really going nicely with the colors of the river. Great, so I'm just doing this little stroking gesture. This is my taller grass. I'm just gonna create a couple sections of these, a couple of these little rascal bushes of tall grass. Oh, that is just movement for the ages. Oh, look at that. Now I'm going to do this the other direction because probably the wind is blowing in a couple different directions this evening. Okay, there's another one of those little bushes, right? Just that you see in parks. It's a nice little color. I might even do it on the riverbank on this side. I think there's probably some bush on this side too. Again, I'm doing this kind of sweeping gesture. I want to grab the texture of the grass. There it is. Little nail polish. Oh, people always write into me and they say that is such an interesting use of nail polish. I always use nail polish just to paint my nails, and I normally do too, but boy, when I started to use this on paper, the color just came alive in such a different way. It's just wonderful. So I'm going to do that. A couple more over here. Just a couple more of those bushes. Oh shoot, who knows what kinds of plants these are called, but here we go. Oh, that is just breathtaking over there. That color's popping on the page. I'm capturing evening. And maybe there's a picnic going on somewhere. You pick your picnic, wherever feels good to you. A couple more of these little bushes. They're just gonna grow up and they gather at the bottom there. I'm gonna create a little shadow. So what I'm doing is I'm drawing a little line underneath, but I'm shading it to create the essence of a shadow. Some of you don't know what a shadow is. It is essentially a silhouette. It's a silhouette created by the sun. Just want to fill this one out. Create a little bit more there. Oh, that's beautiful. All right, and there's our river. And see, there's probably a little growth happening within the river. We're almost there, team. We're almost there. We're going to fill in these mountains here a little bit. I'm going to pick a different color. I found a darker green in my glitter. Now, I want to go ahead and just show our audience one more time what we found today. We're using glitter crayons. These are washable. They are by Crayola. Now, what's been so much fun with these crayons is the colors. This one is called Gritty Green. Now you'll remember we had a green before that was called Wild Wasabi. These are two different greens, and I'm going to use them for shading purposes. We're going to go back. Now, first, before I was doing that stroking sweep, stroking pattern, I'm going to do the same pattern though on the hillside, but the other way, right? Here's our stroking pattern. Oh, I get so many compliments from you writers at home on the stroking patterns because they're so accessible to do at home. You can stroke anything, anywhere on your painting. Whatever you feel you need to stroke, you just create that stroking pattern. Oh, this is very nice. It's coming together. You can imagine too, there's probably some kind of grass on these hills. Here we go. Keeping that stroking pattern. There we go. Okay. Now, for those of you who watched yesterday, we did, yesterday was more of a landscape, specifically of trees. Oh boy, that painting hung in my house for almost 24 hours, everybody. It flew off that wall so fast. They are available, although they're awfully hard to let go of. I tell you what, these stroking patterns. Okay, there we go. And now I'm also going to fill in, this is a different pattern that we're using, similar to the one we did up here, also sweetened, but they're going to be a little more staccato, just more of a staccato pattern. So I did one right there. Let's do that again. Oh, there's another one. Up, 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 up. Oh, up, up. And I like to make a little fun noises with them. It's just fun for me. It's fun for whoever's around, really. More of those stroking patterns. Beautiful. We've got a little sky to fill in. We're almost there. Good. And I'm going to do some of those. Oh, this is great. Beautiful stroking patterns. But remember, they're more staccato. Like, too hot. Oh no, I'm just being crazy. Okay. Just about there. With our gritty green. Oh, that's looking really nice. Okay, so we've got the city of Detroit in the background. We've got a little park in the front. Let's go ahead and fill in our sky, see what other colors we can wrestle up and play with here. This one is called Blue Blazes, and that sounds like exactly the color we want for our sky. Those of you just joining in, we are drawing the city of Detroit in our cityscape. We have a nice little advertisement in the background. I think it's nice to break up some of your music when you're working. I think this advertisement makes me want to go in more of a circular pattern. Oh, yeah. Feeling more of a circular sky in the city of Detroit, because there is one thing I've read about Detroit. It does have a lot of pollution. So let's see if we can capture that with that circular motion. Maybe over some of these buildings. Just a little bit. Now your pollution can be any color you want. I've chosen blue, though sometimes with the sunlight, especially in the evening, and probably we'll play around with this a little bit, is purple. Purple is a common color for pollution. We're just going to start with our circles, because we were feeling a little frisky in our advertisement. Now we're back to that lovely piano movement, and actually it's changing a little bit the way I'm doing my circles. Keep in mind, we talked about this on yesterday's episode of painting at home. My circles are counterclockwise. You can go clockwise, it's completely up to you. It makes a totally different movement to your page, but it's up to you. Again, don't try to copy me. You don't have to copy anyone else's work. Just do whatever your mood is, whatever suits you. Okay, so we've gotten a nice circular motion. Now I'm going to go ahead and fill this in. As I say, often pollution can be purple, so we're going to just add a little bit of that purple color. Remember, it's evening in Detroit in my painting. So, you know, your sky can be whatever though. You can add a little red if you wanted to. Ooh, maybe a little yellow, although that does maybe make a little daytime, but who knows? Maybe it's like an Indian summer, right? Maybe something like that. Oh, that's beautiful. That's really coming together. Now again, my circular patterns, I'm trying to capture that pollution in Detroit. One other thing I thought I might do is distinguish buildings. Now the next, oh, I love this name of this color. This is called black gold, whatever that means. So let's go ahead and just add maybe a little blips back to that little staccato movement, just of texture. Oh, very good. I imagine the city of Detroit has a lot of textures. I can only imagine. Look at that. Here we go. All right. We're almost there. Now, the one last thing that we're going to draw today, every city, no matter where you are, has a tree. So we are going to draw one tree. People write into me all the time. They say, Jean, you know, you always draw these wonderful paintings, and then you like to go ahead and add a big tree right at the end. I don't know what it is with me and trees. Maybe we have a special relationship together. I'm going to go ahead and draw my tree right over here. Start with my ballpoint pen. I'm just going to draw a very firm and very strong tree trunk. Now remember I said yesterday, trees are not always straight up and down. They can be this way, they can be this way. Your tree's up to you. Give it some life. Give it some life. Give it some girth. There it is. I'm going to start there. I'm going to draw out just some branches at the bottom. Just a little bit of root for my tree. Very good. As I said yesterday, I always love a good palm tree. Now, we're not going to actually do palm tree today. What we might do is more of a weeping willow. But I'm going to imagine my weeping willow has a very long stem. Let's start with that. So here's my weeping willow, and it has a circle up here. I always like my trees to be sort of framed by something. So yesterday I did rocks. Maybe we've got smaller hills over here. Let's draw those smaller hills. Now again, I'm using ballpoint pen. I find that it's very good just to outline some things. You can use whatever you want, but we have our weeping willows, and I'm going to draw a little weeping willow down here. Good. And as you know, most trees have rounded tops and then big old trunks. At least the trees I like. So we're going to add a little texture there. I've added my little hills at the bottom, and let's go ahead and color this bad boy in. All right, I'm going to go ahead at this time and maybe make my trunk a little bit red. Maybe my trunk is, full of life. Who knows? You draw whatever color you see and the kinds of trees you like. I'm just going to do a little shading here. Little shadow where the hills are going to live. And I think I'm going to go back to that gritty green. I love that word, gritty. I'm going going to draw on those little hills. Good, the little hills look great. And then for my weeping willow, create a little texture down here. Texture's been a main word for us today, hasn't it, everyone? Good. There's that weeping willow. But again, my weeping willow has a little bit longer trunk. You know, sometimes the leaves fall a little longer, but I always make sure I like to see the trunks in my trees. I'm sure you feel the same way. Good, so we're just going to shade this in, but I'm going to try to get how the tree falls. So I'm doing a little bit of a sweeping stroke this way and a sweeping stroke this way. Oh boy, there we go. Good, and then I'm going to shade it. I'm feeling a little bit fun today, just a little bit fun. I found the most wonderful color in my box of glitter crayons. This is called Sun Shower. Oh, what a word. Sun and shower. Those words absolutely belong together. So now I'm going to just kind of give this tree a golden sun shower. Oh, that's beautiful. Just a golden sun shower on the top of my tree. There it is. That golden sun shower is just soaking this tree with light, I tell you. Beautiful. Okay, so now I want to make sure that I've colored in my trunk, but I think I'm going to use, I found a wonderful color just now. Ooh, red slaw. Fantastic. This is a deeper red. And I'm trying to capture again, for those of you joining us, this is the city of Detroit we're drawing. I'm trying to capture the city of Detroit in the evening. We've colored in our sky. We've colored in our park with our river. And then I have my one final tree. I'm going to color in, to finish here, my little hills. We're going to go back to that sweeping gesture. And I think I'll go ahead and put a little brush at the bottom. There we go. Just a little brush. Coloring it in. Good. And I'm doing sort of a mixed across stroke between my stroking and my circular gesture, but you do whatever you want. And you know, I have the brighter red from yesterday. For this tree, let's go ahead and just stick with that color, because beneath trees there's always a little fresher growth. So there's my brush. There's my brush. There's my brush. Good. Okay, we're gonna fill that in the other side. And then to blend everything, do one final thing. I'm gonna take my favorite color in this entire box. It is called Golden Dust. Not quite sun shower, but close. And I'm just gonna blend everything together. One sweeping gesture across the entire middle part of this painting. Look at that. That just blends everything together. It's wonderful. And then, let's take my fingers here, massage it just a little. Oh yeah, that's blending together very nicely. My nail polish is dried, it's perfect. And we're gonna just fill that in. And look at that. Fill that in, get that some of the sky just for continuity. Just a fancy word for blending. Continuity. Maybe a little bit of that down here. And voila. We have the city of Detroit, complete with its park, complete with a tree, complete with the river. Let's just zoom in and take a little closer look to some of those textures. Feels like the city of Detroit to me. Thank you all so much for joining for the second episode of Painting at Home. I am Jean Moss. Please send me your feedback, whatever you want to hear. Ask me if you have any questions about any of the strokes that we did today, any of our technique. Happy to share with you. And remember, always just make your painting your very own. It is completely your work, and it is completely how you see things. And I invite you to find the cityscapes, find the landscapes around you. Have a wonderful evening. Join us again for the next episode.